Good evening. It's Monday, April 7th, 2025. Welcome to episode 106 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. And we are here, a little rushed, not quite ready for this, but there is something to be said for showing up and being consistent in what you do. And we're glad that you're joining us here tonight on the live stream. And even if you are joining us on the rebroadcast, we're glad that you have decided to join us there as well. But boy, it's been a pretty great week. I don't know. What do you think, Rebecca? It's been busy. I think we've gotten a good number of things done. But it always, to me, seems as though
there's something more to do.
Well, there's always something more to do. And the week just slips by. And the next thing you know, it's Monday again. And then you have to look back and say, well, wow, did we get anything accomplished? And I think if we do that, we can look back with some level of confidence that some things got done this week productively.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I think so.
Yeah. So, tonight's episode, I thought we'd start off just with a little brief homestead update as we normally do. And the main topic for tonight deals with controversies within the online homesteading community. And I'll tell you how I came to that decision here in a little bit, but that was kind of a last minute deal. And I guess we'll get to things like we normally do. How are you doing this evening?
I am doing good. Mm-hmm. I went out for my run to try to keep up my training for the up and coming event, mm-hmm. and just kind of slid in time just to do this live stream.
Yeah. Well, how is your training going, by the way?
It's pretty good. I increased my mileage, so that's good.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can keep going that direction to get mm-hmm. closer to making it a little easier to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you'll be able to do that. And it's just, you've been building bricks for a little bit of time, but it's just going to take a little bit more increased volume and try not to push too much to injure yourself, but it's, a little bit at a time, brick by brick. And I think you're going to find that you will be successful. I'll be there to help you.
Our granddaughter actually knew I was going out and she wanted to go with me. Mm-hmm. At this particular time, I was running 7 miles and I thought, that's a little bit much for her. So she was a little bit sad that she couldn't go. I mean, she came running to the car with her tennis shoes in her hands. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of sad. So I made a promise that I would come get her when I ran a shorter stint. So yesterday, I decided I would go ahead and I was going to do 2 miles. I thought I could probably stretch her that far. Mm-hmm. But we successfully made it 1.5 miles.
Yeah.
And she was exhausted.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. Young kids, they got all kinds of energy until you go. They can go fast, but it's like going out there for any length of time. They kind of don't realize, hey, this isn't as fun when you have to keep going, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, similar. I had a pretty good week too in that regard. I went up yesterday and just completed about a 20-mile run up in the mountains, and ended a week with about 84 miles and around 16 and a half hours of training on the feet. So things are ramping up for me as well, and I'm feeling pretty good about my current position. So that's good. Building bricks every day and getting a little bit more fit in preparedness and preparation for my upcoming A race of the year, which is going to be in Wyoming in June. So
mm-hmm. I'd like to say hello to London and Without Training Wheels.
Oh, good evening, you guys. Glad to see that you've joined us tonight. Hope things are well with you out your way. I know that I think things are pretty wet for some of y'all in the Midwest. I think they had some weather come through, and it's definitely that time of year for everyone, I believe, where mm-hmm. we're starting to get a little bit more precip. But things are looking up for us around here weather-wise. But hope hope things are well with you guys, and thanks for joining us.
London, happened to notice you have your Pine to Palm shirt on.
Yeah, that's one that I'm actually proud to wear, because I was given this shirt when I ran the race the first time, and I dropped at mile 80, and I have this. It's I don't know if it's just something I don't do. I don't wear equipment, or I won't sport it unless I finish the race. And I actually have one bag of swag that sits in my closet, and that's for the race that I'm going to be running in June. And I haven't opened that bag since like 2018 is, I think, when I tried to run that race, and I failed. And I'm not going to wear a t-shirt or any other thing that's in that bag. In fact, I don't even want to look at it. So there it sits in my closet. And I hope someday after this June, hopefully I will be able to open that bag and enjoy what they gave me a few years ago. But that was the story of this shirt until I went back the following year and righted that wrong. But it's just kind of how I am. You
were successful.
Yeah. It's good to be successful. It's good to do hard things and then prove to yourself that you can do them. And that's why I do those things, So, this week, man, I don't know. The wood chips are just flying into the property. And I've got a video that's going to be coming out. I'm putting it together. Should be out this week. And kind of what it is it's like in essence, kind of like a spring tour, if you will. But it was just some of the random things that I was doing on the property on that given day when I decided to shoot this video. And so there's just little different snippets of different things, but I was showing to some extent what I'm doing with some of those wood chips. Now, they're used for a variety of different soil building efforts that I have here on the property. Whether that's suppressing weeds in areas where I don't want weeds to grow and I just want it to aesthetically look nice, or I'm doing that to, grow the soil by mulching and or growing compost or livestock bedding. I should be putting that video to, final edit here in the last couple days or the next couple of days. And then that should be out this week. But, we had another truck just pull up. I had no idea. And Rebecca says, "Hey, there's another truck driving down the driveway of some completely different company." And I guess the word's out. This is the place to dump wood chips. And so it's kind of nice, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Keep them coming.
Yeah, I don't have to budget them now. I can just wood chip away. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, London says that it is pretty wet out your way. Northeast Oklahoma got a good soaking. Yeah, for sure. And then Without Training Wheels says you had a bit of snow this morning and it's all gone now. So that isn't something that we get to hear too often, but I kind of wish we did,
A little bit.
Nothing that I have to actually get out there and shovel, but just to kind of see it now and then, it'd be kind of cool.
It happens very rarely, but it does happen.
Yeah. I saw our feral cat, one of at least a couple that we have, saw him this afternoon out there. The little gray one, not the little calico looking cat, but the gray one. And one thing that I've really noticed, and it's been pretty nice, is that our mice population is seemingly kind of, I wouldn't say it's gone, but it's definitely noticeable. There's not as many mice running around, because we used to just see mice running around.
Yeah. And
now that we've got these cats that have taken up residency, which I am in full favor of until they start actually, using my guard boxes as litter boxes or doing something that is kind of disruptive. But to this point, they're doing a good job keeping the rodent population in check.
They are, and they're feral, so they don't want to get too close to us. So that's kind of to our advantage for them not to be using your boxes for litter boxes.
I'm just more concerned that they're animals that we like cats. We've had cats throughout the years, and they just it just hasn't worked out for us because we kind of got tired of just getting cats and then all of a sudden they turn up missing, because we do have, nighttime predators and such. Saw the raccoon was out there last night. So we do have things out there moving around at night. And unfortunately, that hasn't been so good for our cats. But we've got a couple now, and they seem to be doing a good job for us. So we welcome that.
Yes. I would say that if I had one, it's not that it's going to, I don't know what to say. All right. I'm lost for words.
Okay.
But anyway, I was talking about this cat. He was at the house. He was a male cat, ended up with the name Tomcat. Awesome cat. He would hunt all the time, but super friendly as well. That was an awesome cat. I would have loved to have him. He was smart enough to come up and stay up close to the house during the night. And he got into something and fell out of the rafters in the garage. But we had him for a really long time.
Right. Yeah, we did. And London, you say that, what's also flying is the rude comment on a short. And I think I know what you're referring to. I had put out a couple of shorts this past week from our last live stream. I had them made into shorts and I put those out. And there was some, language that somebody didn't like in the short. And so, they had issue with that. And, I haven't addressed that before. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And they can say what they want to say. But what they don't understand is that that's not going to change what I say. So they can go somewhere else or stick around. It's their choice. And, I'm not offended by that, but I am. It does crack me up when people think that they can tell other people how they should, the words that they should use and in the context in which they should use them. I don't know what type of person thinks that that's, an appropriate way to get what they want, but that's their choice, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Without Training Wheels says that he planted an apple tree.
Yeah.
Got the fruit cocktail.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't have a lot of apple trees. I've only got a couple of them out there, and they're starting to put on their leaves right now, but I don't have any that are producing. I've never really had that great luck with apple trees. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to give it another go. I planted a couple of them and we'll see, but that's cool without Training Wheels. Yeah.
We have to try to beat the birds.
You have to do that with all of it. Yesterday I was going to mention that I was coming back from that run and I was probably 10 miles from the house and I heard something blow underneath my hood and on my Toyota. And it didn't take me long to figure out that, what had happened was one of my radiator hoses had burst because, obviously antifreeze has a very distinctive smell. And within a couple of seconds, I could smell antifreeze. So I knew exactly what had happened and popped the hood. And certainly, it was confirmed that the upper radiator hose had blown. And so I decided to have it towed to a repair shop because I know that I had a couple of issues. One being the radiator probably needed to just be replaced. It was pretty well plugged, I think. Just looking at it and I knew that. And so I kept having to add water to it and stuff. So anyhow, I put it in the shop and I wanted them to assess the issues that I had. And basically they came back and gave me a call today and let me know that what they recommended doing, replacing both hoses and the belts and the radiator and the water pump and thermostat and all of this sort of stuff. Oh, and the, doing a rebuild kit on the oil pump and, gasket kit and all of that. That was going to cost me a little over $2,000. And, I said, well, I'm going to have to talk to my wife about that to find out. And he says, oh, and by the way, we're not even going to be able to tell you if, you didn't do something to damage a head gasket since your vehicle overheated. We have to do those repairs first in order for us to be able to start the engine and, test it and do all this other stuff. And so I said, well, let me check with my wife. And so I talked it over with Rebecca. And essentially, I think what I'm going to do with that vehicle, because it's been a great truck. I've had that truck for, I don't know, how long have I had that? For 15 years, probably.
At least.
Yeah, at least 15 years. I bought it when it, I don't know how many miles it had on it. It's got about 350 right now. It's a Toyota. It's got a really great engine. It's a 22 RE. It's highly sought after. That's one of the best 4-cylinder engines Toyota ever made. In fact, I've had a lot of people come up to me and ask me about that particular, that truck, including its past owner came up and said, hey, that used to be my truck. And, and he nailed it to the extent that he told me a dent that was put into it. And he pointed the dent out that I had no idea was even there. And he said, I put that there when I was pissed off one night because of something me and my wife were fighting and And, I dropped something and it put that dent in there, and he showed it to me and I was just like blown away. But he approached me in Tractor Supply and said, hey, is that your truck? And he said, where'd you buy it? You buy it from the guy, the dude that I bought it from was, sure enough, the guy he sold it to. And so I paid $4,500 for that truck 15 years ago. And so it was kind of hard for me to say, well, I'm going to put in $2,000 to a truck that I paid $4,500. And then I don't know if I'm going to probably spend another $2,000 if it needs a head gasket. And so I think what I'm going to do is just replace the thing and get it cleaned up and sell the damn thing and tell somebody, hey, this is what it is, but I can't see spending that kind of money, but nonetheless, that happened to me the other day, and I'm a little sad about my Toyota. Not super sad, but it's been a good truck, right? Yeah. So anyhow,
I know that when we went to, when I got my new car, they were going to give us $200 for the trade-in for this Ford Focus is what we had. It was a 2005. Happened to be a year that particular model was really good. And I've never had any problems with that car. And we were like, $200? Well, we're going to keep this car. And that car ran for a long time, well over a year.
Yeah, it would still run right now if we just went out there and put a battery in it and fired it up. But yeah, they wanted to give us $200 on a trade-in when we bought our car. And it's like, no, we're just going to keep it.
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me? It still runs, man. It's a good car.
Yeah, we drove it.
Yeah.
That's what we hauled the dogs around in for the longest time.
Yeah. DHD's in the house, says, good evening from the People's Republic of Maryland. Yeah, I don't know much about the politics up there in Maryland, but I understand it's probably pretty liberal in most places, right? It's East Coast,
right
up there in that 13 colonies area.
I've only been to Chevy Chase, Maryland. It's beautiful there.
I bet that's liberal.
Oh, yeah, I bet it is.
Yeah, there's probably some pretty nice places there. It's good for thee, but not for me. Right? No illegals and no hobos and shit like that. Right?
No, it was gorgeous.
Yeah, I bet.
But that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, welcome this evening, DHT. And man, I got a call the other day. I was coming back into town, and somebody had texted me and said, hey, I was just out to your place, and I wasn't able to get a hold of you, but I left a message on the gate. And so when I got home, there was a note on the gate basically indicating that it was a guy that lived next to a friend of mine who used to spend a lot of time over at his house. We used to go over there. I used to play music with him and, drink a bunch of beers, and, we hung out a lot. But, at that time we had a lot of things in common. And so that's what happens when you have a friendship or relationship. Generally speaking, you have something in common that draws you together. And at that time, that's what we were all doing, just kind of hanging out and drinking beers on the weekends and bullshitting and talking whatever, and had similar lifestyles. And I worked with this guy in my place of employment. We worked at the same facility and stuff at the camp. And so we spent a lot of time together, but got a note saying, hey, I'm going to have a 60th birthday party at my house. Or he's having a surprise 60th birthday party and wanted to know if I could come and everything. And so Rebecca and I went this past Saturday, and it was just nice to get to see people that you hadn't seen in a while, people that I worked with, and they're all kind of off doing their own thing, but surprisingly enough, we all still live in the same town.
Yeah.
It's not like we've moved away and somebody's in a different state or whatever. It's like we all live within miles of each other, and we're just going in our different ways. They're doing their thing, I'm doing my thing, and we just don't see that much or hang out anymore. But it was nice to be able to get together with people that you'd spent time with in the past and kind of reminisce a little bit.
But we're talking like 15 to 20 years ago, spent time with.
No, well, I was at his 40th birthday party
at
his house.
So
now
20 years ago.
So it's his 60th.
So looking at people, they look familiar, but it was like, where do I know you from?
Yeah. No,
and somebody would say their name or something. You're like, oh, I know who that is.
Yeah. All those guys that I worked with, though, they all look the same to me, a little bit older and stuff. But some people really you're like, look at them and you're like, holy shit, what happened to you? Mm-hmm. No, these guys all look good.
Mm-hmm.
They all look good, and they've been doing the right things, but it was nice to spend some time together. But DHT says extremely liberal, but we are in the mountains of West Maryland, and that's probably where a lot of good people are living, up in the mountains. Typically rural folk are pretty sensible, and generally speaking, pretty less inclined to just want to be attached straight to the system and be on the teat of the government and expect everybody to do everything for them. So they're a lot more, resilient and self-reliant, preparedness minded, if you will. So, but we should get out that way sometime just to check it out. Yeah, Maryland. Yeah, it's probably
back east. It's really pretty.
Yeah,
there's a lot of beautiful places.
Yeah, I imagine so. We actually loaned our sheep here. We talked about that, but that happened this past week, and we loaded up the sheep and their offspring, and those are now over at our daughter's house, doing some good work for her, because why run a weed eater when you can just put a little
sheep eater out there.
Sheep eater. Yeah, so she's got our sheep, and that's pretty cool. It's less mouths for us to feed. However, this time of year, as probably with most that has a little pasture, it's the time of abundance that animals really prosper. But soon that will just be a dry fire hazard around here for us. So, but whatever.
Yeah,
we're helping them out,
and the grandkids like them.
Yeah. So, what's on the tap for you, Rebecca? What do you got going on?
Well, we've sold eggs.
As always.
As always, yes. 16 dozen this week.
Wow.
So that's a pretty good number for us. And then I had another 6 dozen go out this morning.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. The chickens are coming to life, and, customers are happy. I understand that egg prices are coming down. That's going to happen. And I don't know if that's so much of what's happening in the Trump policy era. He's touting right now that, the egg prices are coming down. Well, they probably would have fucking come down anyhow, because it's a cyclical thing, right? The reason why the egg prices went up because they killed all those chickens. And so there wasn't chickens, but they're getting back on top of things, and egg prices are less. So I think that's less things for people to complain about.
They're actually still fairly high here.
Are they? Yeah, I don't shop for eggs, but they're pretty spendy, huh?
I just kind of check and see. Obviously, we don't need to buy eggs, but they're still $7 or $8 a dozen.
Yeah.
If you want the, what do you call them, cage free?
Well, that's what they put that on all of them. That's just a marketing tool, and all that means is that they're not in a freaking general cage, but they're in this big old building, right? It's not like they're free range. They just say cage free. They're not in a cage, but you got 100,000 chickens scrammed in a building, and then they've got their little laying bunkers and all of that. So people think they're buying something that's, this is organic and it's free range. No, it's not. But
yeah, but my point is that they're still pretty high, because they normally would have been close to like $3.
Yeah, that's true. Local Mennonite eggs around here are $3 to $4. Yeah, that's a good price. That's a fair price. That's what we're charging our customers. We're not looking to gouge people for freaking eggs. They didn't cost us that much to raise. So why are we going to raise our prices? I know that people do that because, I can charge this for my eggs. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. We've just chosen not to try to make money on the backs of people who have a need for eggs just because the price of eggs went up, right? It's not like the housing market in my way of thinking. Obviously it's a supply and demand issue, but we're talking about supporting local business too. And so if we can provide something to local business so that they don't have to go, now I have to pay fucking $6 a dozen or $8 a dozen. If that's what you want to do, then that's fine. We've just chosen not to do that. Mm-hmm. So the Mennonite eggs, $3 to $4, that's a pretty fair price, I imagine. Right?
Yes. However, there's other things that we've checked into that the Mennonite around here are selling. They seem to be kind of pricey.
Oh yeah. They're crafts and their buildings and their little things like that they're making. Yeah, they're pretty high priced. I'm not saying that they, here aren't doing that. They're going to do whatever they do to make a buck. And I don't look down upon that. Mm-hmm. I just choose not to buy it if it's more than I want to pay for something, but yeah, there's some of their stuff is pretty spendy.
Yes. Hello, Bird Lady. How are you?
Bird Lady in the house. Good evening. Yeah. And without training wheels, if it is worth charging, I always give mine out. Let's see. It's worth charging. I always give mine out. Probably just make back enough to feed the chicks. Yeah. I'm definitely going to try to do whatever I can to break even, if not maybe a little bit of for my time and effort, because, your time is worth something to go out and feed chickens every day and source the feed, right? People don't factor that in, but when you have to go down and buy the shit and then take and do something with it, that's time. And that time is actually, it's money. And so I look at it that way, but I also look at it like if I am already doing it, which we are, I'm not going to factor that into my time just for that reason.
Well, and one of the ladies that we sell to, she gives us all her scraps from her deli that we feed to ours. So it's kind of a give and take type of thing. She also gives us, or she had been giving us egg cartons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and free meals from time to time. So
yeah,
that's cool. Yeah,
which we should cash in on.
Yep. So what are you doing with the herbs? I know that I saw you out there working doing that as well.
Yeah, right now I'm trying to tackle the rosemary and trying to get that dehydrated and packaged up. The little envelopes actually came in the mail, so I'm creating labels for that. Mm-hmm. And we'll be spending some time weighing them out so I can have them pretty consistent and slap those labels on and then hopefully put them up for sale if people are interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And along with that, again, it's not like we're looking to make that a fucking business or anything, but I mean, it's a nice thing to be able to include for those customers that are valued customers of ours as maybe just a little, hey, thank you, little gift type thing. So, yeah, that's going to be good, but we've got plenty of herbs.
We do, but I figured since the dehydrator smells like rosemary, I'll stick with rosemary till I'm done with that and then get it all smelling like no rosemary and move to the next one.
What I'd like to see you do a lot of this year, because it's just such a great herb and I've got plenty of it out there, is marjoram. But, obviously we've got the oregano out there and the thyme and all of that, but definitely we need to get some more dried marjoram. That's a fantastic herb.
Yeah, I also want to do the lemon thyme.
Yeah, that stuff's pretty good. I don't know how it'll be dried, but I imagine it'll be just as well, right?
It smells pretty good.
Yeah, tastes good too. So let me ask you this, Rebecca: if you could recommend to this audience one self-reliant skill that you've honed over the years that you would recommend somebody possibly learn, what would it be?
For me, it has been very useful knowing how to sew. If that is mending a comforter or clothing, that definitely would give it a lot longer life. Then that's great. One of the things that I actually did with sewing, I think I was telling you this earlier, is our son and what is his wife now, but was his girlfriend at the time, were going to a concert, and he wanted to get her a t-shirt, and all they had was like extra large. And so he brought the t-shirt to me and he said, "Can you do anything to this t-shirt? Can you make it smaller so it'll fit her?" Now, mind you, this is a men's extra large and she weighs maybe 100 pounds. And he wants me to make this t-shirt fit her. And so I kind of played along with it, that it didn't turn out when he came to find out how it was. And I actually had, because our figures are somewhat similar, I used myself as the model of trying it on and figuring out where to take out excess material and whatnot, and turned it into a dress. When they went to the concert, apparently she had a lot of people come up to her and want to know where she got that dress. So she had a one of a kind. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a really, I don't know, a lot of people don't talk about it in the homesteading, like, genre, if you will, but that's a very viable skill to have, being able to mend clothing, repair things with a sewing machine. But it's kind of like a lost art, because so many of the programs that used to be in school are no longer in school, like home economics and sewing, and all of those types of programs are kind of went by the wayside for the most part. And we live in a society now where people just, I don't want to repair that. I want to go out and buy a new one. And so it's pretty nice. You've mended a lot of my clothing over the years, different, whether it's running stuff or just my work clothes or what have you.
Or just something that the seam has come out. So it's just a matter of an easy, straight stitching.
Right. Yeah, that's a definite skill that I think a lot of people don't have. It's for women, it's probably very similar to it is for young boys. In so many young boys that don't grow up on a farm or grow up in that environment don't even know how to like shift a clutch. If it's not an automatic, they can't drive it. And that was just always a thing that, it was like a rite of passage. You learn how to drive, you learn how to drive a stick. And I'm sure at one point in time, when you became into womanhood from being a girl, you learned that skill because it was such a valuable skill. You didn't have the money to just go out and buy a new thing. You had to repair it.
Yes. And especially if you came from a large family.
Yeah, of course.
Because, your clothes are going to be hand-me-downs, and they're going to have been repaired many times by the time they reach me.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a Barbie doll house, which I absolutely loved. Thought it was the coolest thing, but it was a cardboard box, and it was made out of, obviously, a cardboard box, and just little pieces of rug carpet that had divided. And I had a sister-in-law who was very creative and had kind of made like little homemade furniture and stuff like that. And it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. Well, kids would look at that today and go, "What is this bullshit? I don't want this. What is this piece of crap?" But it's amazing how different times, people have different values, and the smallest of things were probably quite cherished. But yeah, sewing's a really good skill. And I'm glad that you have it. Bird Lady says that she charges $5 a dozen, $4 for those who return their cartons, and you donate the majority. I used to cheap plastic cartons for ones that I donate, and a nice paper cartons for the sold eggs. Yeah, that's a right price, man. $5 a dozen for sure, especially, farm fresh eggs. I mean, those farm fresh eggs are like a premium, quite honestly.
Yes. Well, the people that we sell to always make a comment about how big the eggs are. They're like, "These eggs are really big."
Yeah, it's a Novogen. They are, what's going on with my mouse here? Damn thing. Yeah, they lay on average 70 plus gram egg, and 70 plus is jumbo, anything over 70 grams. So,
and then there's our one that's 134 grams.
Yeah, and then we've also had one this year. What was the other one?
That was the one that was 134 grams.
What was the other one that was like a week after that one? It was 100.
Oh, it was 101.
Okay, so that's, you get large eggs from these birds. But Double Oz is in the house. How are you doing this evening?
Hello.
Yeah, we don't deal with cartons with our clients because they just return our cartons, and we haven't had that issue, but we were doing that as well. We were charging additional if they didn't bring them back or they didn't have their own. But if they provide them, then, they get the eggs cheaper. So that's definitely an incentive so that you don't have to bear that cost as a producer. Everybody used to do that back in the day, London. That was a necessity. You didn't throw socks away when they got a hole in them. You darned them because you needed to darn them. That was just a necessity. And I don't think we do that so much anymore because everything comes from China and it's cheap. You can buy a 12 pack for $6 at Walmart.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, whatever. Why am I going to darn these things? Or, but back in the day, they just didn't have that. So it was definitely a skill. I remember my mom, used to sew my dad's the legs. They kind of looked cool because you'd have like faded jeans on the outside, but the knee part where he was bucking hay and on his thighs and stuff, that was all new fabric. And sometimes it wasn't even denim. It was some other fabric. And so it looked kind of cool. He had these patchwork jeans that he would wear. And they were just work pants, but I thought they looked cool as hell. Yeah.
I remember seeing him wear those at the house. They're not something I think he would wear out.
No, my dad definitely wouldn't wear that outside.
It's far too proper.
Yeah. Double Oz says she sells her eggs too. Right now, my hens lay 4 dozen a week. Yeah, that's good. That's definitely good. If you ever get an abundance, one of the things you might consider doing is just finding somebody with partnering up with them possibly. And if you have too many, maybe just suggest, hey, can, you freeze dry these for me? And then that way, maybe they keep half and you keep half, and it's, an easy exchange. And that way, when your hens are laid up in the winter or something happens to your flock where they get eaten by a predator or they get ill, you're not going to be without eggs. You'll have eggs in the wintertime. So it's just something to consider. People are going to find out that they have an abundance of eggs, and I've got all these eggs. What do I do with them? I'm giving them away. I'm whatever. And that's fine if you're going to keep that. But typically what happens in the wintertime, they slow down or they get older each year. And so unless you're running a decent cull operation where you're getting rid of those old non-productive hens. And when I say non-productive, I'm talking less than optimally productive. Doesn't mean that they will never give you an egg. It's just they're not going to give you nearly as many eggs because, as I understand it, they only have a limited number of eggs, right?
Just like us humans.
About 1,000 eggs is what they're given from birth. And then when those kind of run out, and they give the majority of them in that first 18-month period, and then it starts to taper from there. So, yeah.
Yeah, ours are still doing pretty good, though. Can't complain.
Yeah.
Except for the ones that like to pop them out just anywhere. I can complain about that.
Yeah. Also too, Rebecca, there's always something that's happening in the news, most of which that we see on a daily basis is oftentimes just a distraction from day to day. But is there anything that's currently happening that people should pay attention to if they are of the preparedness mindset? Anything comes to mind, or is all of it just a distraction?
I think there's people that have different notions of what homesteading is, and they don't realize that what they're doing every day is homesteading too, maybe on a much smaller scale.
Mm-hmm. I don't think you understood the question.
Maybe I didn't.
Yeah, I just said that there's always something happening in the news. Is there anything that's happening currently in the news that you think people should pay attention to? Or do you think it's all just a distraction? Is it all bullshit? And it's just like, it doesn't matter.
I think there's a mixture of both. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about wanting peace, no more death. However, on one hand, on the other hand, there's, hey, if these people don't comply, we're just going to bomb them. That's conflicting to me. Wanting to take over Gaza, I don't fully understand that, or why.
Right. I was trying to find out, or I don't know if that how that refers to what people in the homesteading space should be concerned about, though. I mean, those are always things that are out there. That's my point. There's always something that is there as a distraction. How does, is it all just bullshit? Should you just continue to prep? Or is there anything in particular that gives you that sense? And what I'm getting to, at least from my standpoint, what I think, if anything, people should pay attention to is potentially, the tariff thing that's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that it's something that I'm continually
Go ahead. I said that because you're going ahead.
Yeah, I don't think that it's anything that I'm extremely focused on, but it is something worth paying attention to. And the reason why is because if in fact this continues to be a prolonged event, some things that you may need to have on your homestead, depending on what you're interested in, could affect you long term, from the standpoint of things that we're getting from other countries. And one thing of note that I'm thinking of is like construction projects stuff, like steel, anything to do with steel. A lot of that stuff's imported from other countries. And if the cost of that's going to be raised up, you might consider possibly putting something back now rather than waiting till later.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe you're going to build the fence. Well, barbed wire and T-posts, those last for forever.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know that you're going to be putting up a fence in a year, you might just consider paying attention to that. But other than that, I don't know. I think a lot of this stuff's going to work itself out. I think it's a lot of it's just a distraction from day to day.
Yeah. Well, and if it's something that you're going to use eventually anyway, there's no harm in stockpiling it now.
Providing it's not something that's going to spoil.
Correct.
Right. And so that's why I was saying, the steel would probably be a good thing because, like I say, barbed wire is going to last forever, unless it's out in the weather.
Mm-hmm.
But T-posts and stuff like that. That stuff's going to go up tremendously, and it's expensive as it is. I remember when I put this fence in here, it was almost $2 a T-post, and that was over 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure what it is now, but just things like that to consider, But
well, I noticed the price of products for the pool, the chlorine,
mm-hmm.
Is amazing, or just simple supplies that used to not hardly cost anything are now $50.
Yeah. I think that's just an inflationary thing that we've seen over the course of a number of years, regardless of which administration's in. Obviously, we saw a big dramatic increase in that during the Biden administration because of their reckless economic policies. I think we're in large part designed to create that pinch point for the middle class. I think that was all intentional.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen that over the course of just, you look back what it used to cost to buy a house, what a house used to cost in the 1970s, and look what it costs today. And that's just an inflation, a rise in not the quality of the house per se, but it's a cost that's been given to the American people in an inflationary tax. And so, it's something that we're always dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Double Oz says that she's working on being debt free. and having that as a big goal in 2025. And I think that's probably one of the most liberating decisions one can make, regardless of at what point they are in their life cycle. Whether you're young or whether you're getting up in the years, it's always good. It gives you so much more freedom and leverage to do the things that you actually want to do, rather than being under the imposition of having to do those things because you've already overspent yourself. And so being debt free is such an incredibly powerful thing to strive for. It's always something that we've driven ourselves toward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was paying off our home and getting large sums of money that we were indebted to off of the payroll, which is something that we've been able to do. And it's incredibly liberating.
But doing that a little bit at a time and working, because if you look at the big picture, it's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to choose an amount that that you can obtain to get rid of, and work that way, and just keep working, so that you feel successful.
Right. I think it's pretty daunting for a lot of people because so many people find themselves with all this accumulated debt. And it does feel overwhelming because there's never a time when something else doesn't present itself where it's like, oh, this isn't something that I want to spend money on. This is something I have to spend money on. Like my truck, right? That just took a shit on me here yesterday. Well, if that was my only vehicle, I'd be in a different scenario. I'd be like, well, shit, now I got to make a decision. Do I get this thing fixed or do I go out and buy a new vehicle? I don't have to do that now because I got another truck sitting in the garage ready to go. And that's just, I'm not saying that was by design, but it's nice to have that backup that doesn't make you beholden to oh, now I've got to do this. And that's what getting out from underneath that debt can do for anyone. It's so empowering, it's so incredibly empowering. But the sad part about it is, and I learned this some time ago, is that they never talk about this in school. Isn't that interesting? Financial literacy is probably one of the most important things that anyone can teach you. And if it's not taught to you by your parents, for certain they should be focusing on this in school. That's incredibly important. But why don't they do that? Do you ever ask yourself that?
No, but they certainly do teach you how to get further in debt.
That's because that's the lobby, the lobbyists and the money that exists about having people on the hamster wheel. They need you to spend money you don't have. And so why would they teach you to be financially literate? Here, you young person, here's a credit card that's financed at 21% interest. Go out and buy yourself something. That's the message that they give you. They don't give you the message to say, hey, why don't you live within your means? Why don't you take care of your shit? And why don't they teach you that in public school? They never taught you that. And so whose job is that to teach you? It's not really the public school, it's your parents. But see, if your parents don't ever learn that, then they're just going to be in that cycle of, oh, I'm going to go work for the man, 8 to 5, come home, and I got my 2 days off. And then I go back to work and bust my ass until I have a heart attack at age fucking 65. And then we'll call it a day. That's the reality, man. So by you doing what you're doing to get debt free, I applaud you because so many people don't have that as their number one goal, but that should be high on your list of things to do.
But with that, you should also, and even if it's $20 a month or $5 a month or whatever, kind of set that aside so that you also have a small savings for the event that something happens. You have money to be able to rely on.
Yeah, it's important, man. I mean, we talk a lot about preparedness, and I think we all want to be, for the most part, autonomous and prepared and live the life according to how we want to live it. But the only way that you can do that is by being responsible enough to take responsibility for your own success and failure.
Mm-hmm.
so many people want to point the finger at others by, oh, this happened to me. It's it's their fault why I don't have these things. And it's just not the case, man. We've all made poor decisions in our life. It's what we do to dig ourselves out of those decisions and decide to do, as Rebecca was saying, a little bit at a time, making those incremental changes to get to that point where we do have that economic viability, if you will.
It's a discussion that I've had with our kids that they should do. And they've done pretty good at taking that advice. And when their car breaks down, they're able to make that payment, or something comes across that maybe they got a bill that was bigger than they had anticipated. Mm-hmm. They have money to rely on.
Yeah. Bird Lady Speaks says, we've added about 20 plus more fruit trees, vines, bushes in anticipation of the tariffs. Plus this stuff in the stores is not really good anyways. Yeah. That is another really good investment, is fruit trees on your property, perennials that are fruit bearing, that can provide you food year after year after year. That right there raises your property value. So it's one of the things that you can do on your property that the government won't tax at this point, that increases the value of your property. They haven't yet figured out how to say, oh, you've got fruit trees on your property, we need to raise the value of your property. But if you were to go and sell that piece of property, you have mature fruit-bearing trees on your property that provides not only structure and beauty, but it also provides food. Boy, that's a win. Mm-hmm. So very smart to do that. So, Skanes girl's in the house. How are you doing this evening, Skanes? Girl. Yeah, good to see you. Let's see here. What was we talking about? Yeah, let's kind of move toward the main topic. And this, to me, I hadn't even really been thinking about this until this morning, because I came across something in, another niche thing that I'm involved in. Homesteading is kind of a niche thing, if you will. There's a lot of people in it, of course, but for the average person, most people don't even know what homesteading is. You tell them, oh, I've got this YouTube channel and we talk about homesteading. They're like, what is that? What's homesteading? What do you mean? So, it's kind of a niche thing, but I'm also involved in the ultra running community. And that's even more niche, I think. There's less people that are interested in going and paying for a bunch of gear and equipment and paying for these expensive races to go out and to suffer. There's very few people that are willing to do that. And there's a controversy that I learned about here recently. They were talking about it. It was one of the races that's currently being run as we speak. It's the Arizona 300. It's a 300-mile race that's being run. It's not being very well supported, according to the people on the online community, and it's caused some controversial topics and conversation to come up as a result of it. And what came to my mind is I said, people bitch about all kinds of different things. I'm almost certain that there's controversies regarding homesteading. And so I asked Grok, which Grok is a pretty useful AI tool. It's Elon Musk's version of ChatGPT. And I like it because what, Elon has expressed is he says that Grok is it's his attempt at giving you like a non-woke answer. It doesn't really even go like, hey, this is a conservative side of the view. It just gives you the answer, and it gives you kind of different perspectives on different things from both sides. And I think that's a useful tool. And so I asked Grok, I said, are there any controversies within the online homesteading community? And of course, this is what Grok came back and said. It says, As of April 7th, 2025, the online homesteading community has indeed seen its share of controversies over the past few months, reflecting tensions over ideology, authenticity, and practical realities. These debates have surfaced primarily on platforms like Reddit, both the homesteading thread and the homestead thread, Instagram and YouTube comment section, where homesteaders and followers air grievances and hash out differing perspectives. Here are some of the key controversies stirring the digital homesteading pot. And the first one deals with kind of more or less an ideological divide along politics and social values. And it says, a persistent tension exists between the community's politically diverse members. Homesteading often attracts both conservative, traditional types, and progressives. And users on the platform have, long noted there's been this divide or this split between progressive and conservatives in the homesteading space. And there was a March 2024 thread asking why so many homesteading groups lean right wing. And basically, critics, being the left-wing people, would argue that some influencers push regressive social views, citing examples like anti-vaccine sentiment or nativist undertones, which alienates left-leaning homesteaders. So I guess the question is that a problem? Should we in the community be more inclusive, or do they have a specific gripe that needs to be addressed? What do you say to that there's too many conservatives in the space?
I think they should find their own space, find where they fit in, not worry about how everybody else is and how they can change those people to make them more like them. Find
Right.
people that are like them and hang out with them.
Right. Yeah. So one of these people called out a popular YouTube for blending homesteading tips with conspiracy-laden rants. Sounds like me, but it's probably not. And basically saying that politics should stay out of the lifestyle. What do you think about that? Do you think that politics should stay out of this type of channel or this type of conversation? What do you say to those people who view that? Is it go find someplace else to be?
I think it's kind of hard to separate them.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I would say if you want just a specific topic and nothing else introduced with it, find that group of people who that's all they want to talk about.
Right.
And pair up with them.
Yeah, I agree with you. Here's the thing. There's a lot of different places for people to get information. The internet is vast. There's a lot of different choices that people have in order to spend their time. And if, somebody wants to interject something that's outside of homesteading and you've come there purely for homesteading, and then that offends you and you don't like that, you don't have to remain. You can go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But, I detest the idea that people feel as though they can come into a space and then dictate what is talked about within that space. You either like it or you don't. That's called the free market. And I think that it's important that we as individuals have the ability to be ourselves and to speak our mind. I think that's very important. I think there's space for everyone. If you want to specifically stick to this topic or to that topic and that's your thing, that's fine. But where I have a problem is when people come into a space and then they think they want to change the space. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of space out there for people. And you either like it or you don't, right?
Yeah.
So that's my take on it. I don't know what you guys out there think, but I do find it interesting how people always seem to have their panties in a bunch about something. There's always something to complain about.
And they have a right to complain.
Of course they do.
But they don't have the right to change something that doesn't belong to them.
Exactly. That's exactly right. If they want something different, there's nothing stopping or standing in the way from them creating something different.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They want to tell this creator what they should be doing and that creator what they should be doing. But they don't, in fact, want to do anything themselves. If they really wanted to make a statement or a stand, go do something and be productive. But let's see here. Politics are a part of life. It greatly affects the homesteading movement in general. Yeah, I think it's important, Skanes. I agree with you. I think that it's important to just stay abreast of the things that are in the world around us. Politics, whether you like it or not, it affects us all. And it largely shapes, our worldview. And I think it's important to see who out there is giving you more accurate information, or at least giving you information that allows you to make up your own mind about what you believe the truth to be. Because everybody that has an ideological belief feels as though they have the belief that's correct. They are aligning with the truth. And now where that truth lies is up to the individual to define for themselves. And I really have a problem when people come into a space and they think they have the right to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. And for people that, were offended, there was a couple of people that were offended by the things that I said. One person called and said that I was a potty mouth. Well, what does that even mean? What are you, fucking 2 years old? You in grade school? You've never heard a word that offends your sensibilities? And if you do, and that's a problem for you, just leave. You don't have to stay. That's the beauty of choice in America. That's the whole point. But to suggest that you're going to come into a space and tell somebody who's expressing themselves, don't express yourself that way, I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's, again, not their space to change.
So I don't know. There's just people who always want to have something to say without really very much to say. Yeah. Bird Lady speaks. Do what is best for you. Those who are with you will be with you. Those who won't, good riddance. Yeah, it's a free country, man. I mean, it just absolutely is. I align with those people who are true to themselves and not influenced by those around them. I really find it detestable for people to have an expectation that I'm a certain way. That really, really bothers me because it's never going to happen. I'm going to be who I am, and I'm not going to be influenced by that. The only people that would really influence that would be my family and people that I care most about. But some rando on the internet that seems like they're going to say, hey, you should do this or that. And, here's the thing. People have put themselves in that box. They've created this caricature of themselves that they can't stray from. And I find that interesting. And I understand why people do it. It's for monetization. It's because they want to be liked. They want people to like them. They want to not offend people. I don't give a fuck if I offend people that I don't know. I mean, that's just the reality of it. I'm not outwardly looking to do that, but I'm not here to live my life for other people. Right. Mm-hmm. So, it's like I've mentioned this before, the celebrities who dress a certain way. And then when they come out or they're seen without that costume on, then therefore they get chastised by their adoring fans. Dolly Parton spoke of that. Reba McEntire spoke of that. All of these people said, oh, well, you've done this to your hair. I don't like it. And so she had to put her hair back like everybody wanted it to be. If you create this costume of yourself where you come out and you're wearing a hat and everybody sees you in that hat and you've got your get up on, you have to be in that get up. Or if you don't, then it's going to create some controversy. Now, maybe that's what the person wants, is to create some controversy. But again, I understand why people do it.
Yeah. Well, we've also talked about in the ultra running world that there's a person or two that kind of fell in that as well, wore a particular costume, and then over the years has kind of outgrown wanting to put that on, but everybody complains about, how come you're not dressed like this? This is what we expect. And so the next time you see them, they're wearing that outfit.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a place I just don't want to be in. I don't want to be that guy. I like to express myself how I want to express myself. But anywho,
and you do that well.
Well, not always, but I try to. The next is regarding authenticity and commercialization. Interesting, huh? It says the rise of homesteading influencers has fueled accusations of inauthenticity. And this is on the homestead thread on Reddit. It says a January 2025 thread titled "Homestead YouTube is 90% grift" criticized channels like Acre Homestead and Lumna Acres for showcasing lavish products like imported smokers or genetic livestock testing, which feels unattainable for average homesteaders. Commenters griped that these creators rely on YouTube revenue or undisclosed wealth rather than true self-sufficiency. With one user snarking, "They're homesteading with a six-figure safety net." This echoes broader discontent about polished aesthetics. Think Instagram perfect cabins clashing with the gritty reality of sustainable living, leading some to question if the movement's been co-opted by lifestyle branding. Your thoughts, Rebecca?
Well, I don't know. I mean, personally, we don't make a ton of money off this. It's us coming on and sharing our views and our ideas and hoping to gather ideas from you guys who are watching. Mm-hmm. And I personally don't get caught up in what your house looks like, how much money you make, mm-hmm. but more so the information you're putting out.
Right.
And the information that, we can receive from you as well as you can receive from us.
Right. Well, the way that I view that right there, these people that are bitching, is they're looking at these other homesteading channels like Lumna Acres and others, right? There's others out there that are doing their thing and they've got a big following and they're making a lot of money on not only their YouTube revenue, but all their side hustles and everything else. You know what I say is good for them. That's what they've chosen to do. And they've made themselves successful at doing so. They have a following. They have people that are watching and learning from them, being inspired by them. Maybe people are just living vicariously through those people and have no intention on doing anything homesteading wise, but it's entertainment for them. Nonetheless, those people are doing something. They're being productive. And the people that are sitting on the sidelines bitching about these people as being grifters aren't doing a damn thing. They're not doing anything other than bitching about what they don't have. And that's so indicative of people who are entitled to something that isn't theirs. If you have a problem with what Wrangler Star is doing, or you have a problem with one of these other larger channels that's successful and people are looking up to and following and finding some value out of, you know what I say to those people? Why don't you go do something productive instead of bitching about what you don't have? But it's so instructive of many people in our society that want something for nothing. All right. Mm-hmm. Have anything else to add?
I don't know that I could really add to that.
Bill Zegley's in the house. Good evening from Lewisburg, Tennessee.
I mean, I could equate it to, I use our son that is handicapped. People want to stand him up. People want to help him. And in reality, they're not helping him. They're hurting him. And in his case, he needs to be encouraged to use his own muscles, to learn how to walk, to achieve and be the best he can be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say that the same goes for people who are complaining but not doing anything. Well, you're not progressing. You're not doing anything. The only way you're going to do that is to try to be the best you can be.
Yeah, those people, what they are is they're monkeys in a barrel. They are crabs in a pot. They're looking at other people who have climbed out of the barrel or on their way out of the barrel, and they're saying, no, don't leave us. Here, let me grab a hold of your leg and pull your ass back down into the barrel. You know, they don't like seeing people that are successful. And those are the people you want to run the farthest the fuck away from in reality, because they're just going to suck your life away. So when I see these types of arguments, it's pretty interesting to me. It's a lot of envy and a lot of jealousy, but really there's just no action. And unfortunately, society in a lot of respects has, found a voice in supporting these people. There's a lot of people out there that have this belief that, oh, I should have something for nothing. I should bitch that flipping burgers at McDonald's isn't a living wage. No, it's not a fucking living wage, you idiot. It's an entry-level job that you should get, and then you should want to do something more for yourself so that you can actually have a sustainable career and be productive throughout the remainder of your life and be debt-free. But that's why we have people out there saying it's your entitlement. We should be a living wage to work at McDonald's and flip burgers. That's who that right there is, looking at those who have something because they have not. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bird Lady says, this has been happening for a while. Got to be nearly naked to get a good AdSense payout or pushed in the algorithm. Well, maybe that's why we're not getting paid, because I ain't getting naked on camera here. So
really?
No, it's not happening. But YouTube is an interesting thing. It just is. I'm still learning it. And it's not like I'm really worried too much about any of that. I do a portion of one of the reasons why I wanted to create content and get the channel monetized was because YouTube was making money off of my videos and I hadn't been in the program yet. So I figured, well, if they're going to be running ads on the content that I put out there, I might as well be getting something for it. Now, granted, it's not a lot of money at all. It's something though. I mean, for your effort, for your time, it's something. And that's important, because nobody likes doing something for nothing, I wouldn't think, unless you're just looking to donate your time. And I certainly am not looking to do that to $1 billion corporation. They're increasing their value. So why shouldn't the creator, get some small penance for their efforts? But, YouTube is kind of an interesting thing with regard to the AdSense thing. It's not very lucrative unless you have a lot of views per video.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't get that. So it's all good. Who am I missing here? Let's see here. Let's see what Gaines has to say. Because there are a lot of those who are not authentic. But if you happen to have great resources to make your homestead, more power to you. We are all at a different stage of our journey. Yeah, wise words.
Mm-hmm. Wise
words. There are, I think there are a lot of grift out there, if you will, in the space. Some people are in it purely just for the money or whatever. And again, I'm not against them for that. I mean, people got to put food on the table, but it's just kind of interesting for me to see that. And I don't know. I think a lot of people are impressed and fooled by some of the shit that goes on out there.
Yeah. Well, we've also talked about when people are videotaping, they're obviously going to show you the best side. So what you're seeing may not always be authentic in the fact that maybe their property is not as clean as what you're seeing in the video.
Yeah. I think that's true with everybody though. You know, if you have people over, you're not going to like take them to the shittiest room you have in your house, or, you know, you're going to like clean yourself up before you go out to a party, right? Your public persona is a little different than your private persona. And I would say this though, however, if somebody were to come to this property, they wouldn't be completely surprised with what it looks like, because it looks like pretty much what you see on the camera. You know,
Yeah.
I guarantee you there's not a lot of bullshit, you know, stacked in piles around here. I've managed to stay on top of that. That's just something I'm not about. We do have a boneyard, but it's pretty tidy, if you will.
Yeah, I would say that we probably both have a little bit of an obsession with the fact that, like, for me, if we leave, I want to be able to walk into a house that's clean.
It's annoying.
I can't.
It's annoying.
I can't take
I'm telling
it.
you. It's like, can we leave now? She's like getting everything like just come on, man. We're going to be back in like 2 days. And she's like dusting and getting everything. So when we walk in, it's just like, she walks in and she surveys the place like, I'm home. It's annoying. I'm telling. Bird Lady says, I think it's authentic homesteaders do not support each other. I'd rather be here with 11 watchers than others who have thousands of watchers. I learn here. Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate you hanging out with us. And, you know, we enjoy, you know, talking to you guys and interacting with you guys online here. And it's not about having, you know, a shit ton of people here, because we wouldn't be able to keep up with that anyhow. You know, you'd need moderators and all this other bullshit.
Which, by the way, we don't have.
No, I mean, it's pretty unnecessary when you don't have like a huge channel with like thousands of people watching you and a bunch of like weirdos coming into the chat saying weird stuff. You know, we don't have that here, but yeah.
Well, I think we enjoy this too. We enjoy the smaller group where we can interact with everybody that's there.
Yeah. Bird Lady says she puts her AdSense into chicken feed materials. Yeah.
I had to figure out what that was when I was going to do the taxes. Mm-hmm. I was like, what is this for?
Right. Yeah, they some weird company.
Something holding.
Yeah.
I think is what it was listed as, LLC holding or something like that.
Right. Let's see, sort of.
I had no idea. And then I had to try to explain it to the tax guy.
Mm-hmm. Beyond the Grid Homestead. Hello there. Starting a homestead from nothing is authentic as it can be. Yeah. Yeah, well, welcome this evening. And yeah, I don't know. We try to be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
I think. You know,
I do.
As we can be, you know. But welcome this evening Beyond the Grid. So let me get to the other question, because there's a couple other questions I thought were interesting, man. Like these controversies, these online controversies. Okay, so here's another one. Labor and family dynamics. The role of family, especially children in homesteading, has sparked heated debate. A March 2024 Reddit post about Josh and Carolyn Thomas of Homesteading Family accused them of exploiting their large family for farm labor, reigniting in late 2024 with over 100 comments. Critics argued it's borderline unethical to use kids as free workers, while defenders countered that chores build character, citing rural traditions. This ties into broader scrutiny of homesteaders romanticizing a lifestyle that demands relentless work. With one February 2025 commenter on the thread noting, they sell you simple living, but it's 80-hour work weeks and no vacations. Your thoughts, Rebecca?
Well, you know, that gets underneath my skin.
I don't. Tell me more.
I think that parents need to teach their kids at a young age work ethics, so that is something that they grow up and want to learn and achieve as they get older. It's not using them for slave labor, but it's teaching them right from wrong and how to make something of themselves.
Right. Yeah.
And along with that, there is a lot of learning that they do that actually puts them above. Now, this would be kids I guess I'm referring to as homeschooling kids, puts them above kids who actually leave and go to school.
Mm-hmm.
That's not available for everyone, but
You know what's interesting, guys, if you think about it just real quick, I just thought of this, but you would have never heard this in the 70s, would you have? Growing up in the 70s, you would have never heard anybody bitching about this. Primarily because there's obviously no internet back then, and you didn't have a bunch of people with no lives sitting around bitching about things that are very like innocuous and unimportant. But in reality, people just didn't talk that way in the 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because folks had larger families then than they do now. If you have one kid now, a lot of people I know are tapping out.
Then you've got to find play groups and everything else. I mean, I'm speaking for me, being the youngest of 6, they were your best friends.
Yeah.
That's who you played with. And if there were other kids in the neighborhood, you played with them too. You weren't taken to a special group to play, but that's,
Yeah.
upbringing from them.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people, I didn't come from a large family. There was 4 of us. There was 6 of her family. That's not including the parents. So 4 children, 6 in hers, and it was just the way things were back then. There was less birth control. That wasn't really an issue, but a lot of things changed in society that told people, you could control what biology had been for like eons from our inception. And now everything was manufactured and controlled, that you should do this. You should postpone having a family so that you could get your career in order. And I see so many people now that are of the millennial generation that have done that. Some of which are in our family that are fucking damn near 40 or in their 40s that have yet to have children. And so you have to ask yourself, is that really a wise choice? But it wasn't even a conversation back in the 70s. You would have never spoke that way, but now people are saying that sort of thing on the internet. Like, oh, they've got a lot of kids and they're making them work. Oh, isn't that unfair? They're making them, what about their work-life balance? You've heard that, right? Work-life balance. What the fuck is work-life balance? That's for people who want something for nothing. Again, they want to go and have everything, but I got to work, but I need to have a life too outside of that. Well, sure you do. Why don't you go create it instead of working for somebody else and bitching about it? Go create your own business, be your own boss, and then you can do whatever you want, fool. But they go and work for somebody else, the man, and then they want to talk about work-life balance. And that's the same type of mentality that's bitching about these people on these homestead, on that particular family that has 10 kids, and they've got them working, doing things on the farm. They're obviously demonstrating that. They're obviously monetizing from that. And then so obviously there's people who have an opinion about it, even though they really shouldn't. They should, what they should do is just go to another channel and shut their fucking mouth. That's what they should do. They
should learn how happy those kids probably really are.
Yeah. You know what they should do? They should go show up they should send a letter to Patrick Rohrman and tell him about what he should be doing with his 10 children from MT Knives. Say, hey, Patrick, I hear you got 10 kids and some of them are doing shit on your farm. I got a problem with that. And see what Patrick tells you. Because I guarantee you what Patrick's going to tell him. Did I mention he's a knife maker? But anywho, I digress. Yeah.
Which, by the way, we have grandsons who really love knives.
We do. William Zegley says, quality is important to the few. Quantity is for the masses that are mindless. Yeah, it's, followers, man. There's a lot of people who are followers. And nothing was more apparent than what happened during COVID. When you had millions of people all just kind of going, oh, well, everybody's doing it. It must be the thing to do. They're telling me I should. So I'm going to follow along. And then it was easy to point the finger at the people that weren't following along and make them the problem. Yeah, very true. Bill Zegley.
We're still here.
Yeah. Beyond the Grid Homestead says, you guys are definitely very authentic. I've enjoyed watching your videos, learned about biochar from you. Thank you. Appreciate that. I appreciate the comment. The amount of parents that love the tax break from having kids and little interaction with their kids.
I would say that
Bird Lady says, I wish I had children. They will definitely have farm chores. I would love the help. What's the alternative? Turning into digital zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah, children are, they're great to have, a family. And I see so many people making maybe the conscious choice not to have a family. And again, it's your choice to do. It really is your choice to do. And maybe they're going to live out their life and be completely happy with that choice. But as you age, what's that noise, man?
It sounds like a woodpecker on the house.
Ellie Mae.
Is it her?
Yeah, she's snoring.
Oh, it sounds like a woodpecker.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I think people, as you age, man, your perspective on things change, and you start looking around as all your friends die and you're alone.
Well, and if you have a spouse that passes,
Mm-hmm.
then you're definitely alone, and you have no children that come to visit, and you're really alone.
Yeah.
I mean, that starts to wear on you.
Yeah. So whether or not it's a conscious decision or not, I think people, generally speaking, are happier when they have children. And, I wish that you could have children as well, Bird Lady.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Yeah, I make knives for fun. Non-existent John in the house. How are you this evening? So there's another question here. Let's get to that one, because all of these are seemingly just a lot of people complaining about stuff they don't have.
Yeah.
And complaining about others that do. And I don't know. I just find that interesting.
Well, I have a family member whose wife was unable to have children. And so throughout my life, I've done the best to share that with him and have him be around, have him babysit, have him come to birthday parties, have him be involved with our children as much as he possibly could. And I think he's very thankful for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bird Lady's asking if non-existent John makes butchering knives. Sounds like you might have a little bit of interest in some of your product if you make anything. So you guys might want to link up and see if there's anything that you can do, possibly, huh? So this next one here deals with environmental impact and sustainability claims. Sustainability, a cornerstone of homesteading, isn't immune to critique. After the October 2024 Homesteaders of America conference, a thread on Reddit questioned the ecological footprint of a large-scale homesteading event like that, because it has travel emissions, there's a lot of waste and resource use, versus their green messaging. Separately, a January 2025 YouTube comment war erupted under a video about backyard chickens, with viewers debating whether small-scale animal husbandry truly reduces environmental harm compared to industry meat production. One user quipped, "Your sustainable eggs still need store-bought feed. Call it what it is." Your thoughts?
My thoughts on that is that there's always going to be something that you probably would have to purchase, but you do your best to not. So yes, we do have to get store-bought feed for our animals.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not as much as we would, because we also get scraps from every other places, which kind of minimize how much feed we actually have to buy for them. And in return, they provide us with eggs. They could provide us with meat. They do provide our dog with scraps as they get old, or not scraps, but snacks as they get older. So we're getting a lot out of it, probably more so than what we're putting into buying that feed.
Yeah. No, it's, that's what we do. Again, I do find it interesting how, people have this desire to complain about anything, just because, you're not able to do something 100% of the way doesn't negate the other 50% or 60% or 70% of what you are doing. And so by the fact that these people are raising their own eggs, raising their own meat chickens, somebody's going to find a way to complain that they haven't done the rest of the sustainable aspect of growing your own corn and milling it right on your property. I mean, that's kind of a really, I don't know, throw the baby out with the bathwater type of an argument, which again, it's just more of the same type of mentality that thinks, I've got a better idea on what you should do, even though I'm not doing a damn thing myself. I'm going to sit behind my keyboard and I'm going to complain about this or that when I'm not really doing anything. I'm just in my basement wanting something to say to make myself feel important. It's interesting, right?
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think that somebody would say, I'm doing at least this much to help myself where I don't have to rely on somebody else.
Sure.
There are certain things that, yes, I will have to, but look at how much I've done for myself that I don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I don't know. That's not really much of an argument. It seems very indefensible from my perspective, but people are going to be trolls nonetheless and have something to say about what others are doing.
I mean, for instance, other than the eggs, I can't really remember the last time I've had to buy lettuce. I mean, you grow lettuce, beautiful lettuce here. And every night I go out and pick lettuce for our salads. And sometimes I have helping hands that like to help pick the lettuce too.
Yeah.
In the way of grandchildren. And hopefully they don't pull the plant up while they're doing it.
Yeah. Okay, here's the last one. This was the fifth and final controversy, if you will, in the online homesteading space. And this one is cultural representation and historical baggage. So here we go with this. The lack of diversity in online homesteading has bubbled up again with a December 2024 Instagram post from a Black homesteader at Black Farms Matters, calling out the community's white Eurocentric lens. This echoed a 2020 blog post from the House and Homestead, revisited in forums about how the Homestead Act's legacy, displacing indigenous peoples, complicates the movement's narrative. Some defend homesteading as a universal pursuit, but others argue its online face doesn't reflect that, with one Reddit user in March 2025 asking, "Why do I only see tradwives and preppers? Where's everyone else?" So do you know what a tradwife is, Rebecca?
I do not.
I'll explain it to you. Well, a tradwife, I didn't know this either, but see, I learned this on TikTok because they said something about tradwives, and I'm like, what's a tradwife? So I looked it up. And essentially what it is it stands for traditional wife. And there's kind of a movement, if you will, that's gained some semblance of popularity in the online circles, people monetizing this, where you have these somewhat attractive women who dress up in traditional, like kind of like June Cleaver, with the nice, dress, like the summer dress, and they got their hair done up, and they're very attractive. And they're traditional wives that are home doing things for their husband. In essence, they're a housewife. They're either homeschooling or they're taking care of the house, and they're cooking food, and they're doing, all the stuff while the husband's out doing husbandly things. And then he comes home and whatever, right? It's a traditional type of a marital arrangement, but it's being monetized. And some of these trad wives are quite attractive. And so this has caused some level of disgust among the feminist movement and a lot of consternation from people saying that this is taking women in the opposite direction of where they should be. And so I don't know what your thoughts are with regard to that, but
well, I think they're wrong. I think there's so much emphasis in women who stay home are doing nothing. And so they have no value. And in reality, they're doing a lot of work. And if it's recognized, then that somewhat helps.
Mm-hmm.
However, what they've done is they've put the money factor into it. You're staying home, you're not making a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore you should be going out and being just like the man and working. Yeah.
That's the message that's being there, that you're not empowered and this and that. And I understand why, to some extent why that was done, because women were in, trapped relationships, and, we're kind of more or less being taken for granted, a lot of women, and kind of being second class in essence, or really not given that level of maybe recognition or respect from their husbands. So I get that. But you're correct. You're entirely correct, because in order for the man to be able to go out and to do those things and come home, and, he needs that assistance. What's he going to do? Come home and cook his own fucking dinner? It just doesn't work.
Absolutely.
Well,
tonight is a good example. You should start.
You're killing me, man. You're killing me, Smalls. That's funny.
Well,
yeah. Skanes Girl says, once again, we are back to a whole lot of unhappy, miserable people who need to criticize others to make themselves feel better.
Yes. And again, it goes kind of back to, I was raised with a stay-at-home mom, and she wore the high heels, had the hair done, in the dresses, and the June Cleaver look. That's what I was raised with. I happen to admire that. I love that. I love wearing dresses.
Yeah.
I don't like being cold, so I do wear pants, but
yeah, Bird Lady says some people have fetishized it. Well, sure. I mean, that's part of the whole allure to the monetization aspect of it, because sex sells. And if somebody's like attractive sexually, then there's going to be more interest in that particular channel, and then they're going to get more monetization. So, I mean, it's clear that if you're a really attractive person, many people capitalize on that. So it's not but yeah, a lot of women were pissed about that. Mostly, angry liberals.
mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, what do you think about the racial component of what that guy was saying, from, that the homesteading space is too white, if you will? You buy into that argument, or do you think that's a thing?
I do not buy into that argument. I buy that as an excuse.
Mm-hmm. Excuse for what?
For not doing it themselves.
Yeah. I would say that, again, rather than complain about something, if you feel as though the space in homesteading is too white, or it's too whatever, and you have an interest in making it more a certain shade of whatever color or ethnicity, be that person who steps forward and do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look at things that way. I'm not like, hey, I'm doing this because I want Black people to be represented. That's not my jam. I don't look at things in that way, but there are people who make that excuse. Now, to the point about that person on Instagram, that Black Lives Matter Instagram account, that could purely be just a way that person is drawing eyes to themselves by making that kind of a controversial statement. Now, I don't know if that's going to benefit them in the long run, because that's going to alienate a lot of people who think, you know what, man, you're just playing the race card, because people don't appreciate that. I think the majority of people don't appreciate the race card. Some people, like it, but I think it's harmful to relations in this country. We don't need to be looking at people based on that.
I agree. We have already shared the situation with our son, and you never know what somebody's background is. So it's better just to keep your mouth shut.
Yep. Skanes Girl says, I would have loved to be a stay-at-home mom. Anyone who doesn't know how hard you work staying home hasn't done it. Mm-hmm.
It's extremely hard. It's much easier to go to work, because I've done both. Mm-hmm. So I can compare the two, and it's much easier to go to work.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, you had it pretty rough, and I was pretty fortunate to have you here doing what you did, because again, you did both jobs when I was gone.
Mm-hmm.
and that's something I didn't at the time recognize as much as I do now. But, I'm thankful for the fact that you were able to fulfill that role in my absence, for sure. That's got to be a hard thing to do.
But one of the things that I always said to the kids when you were home is that Dad is home. So when they would ask me, because they got used to asking me for everything,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, go ask Dad.
Mm-hmm.
When it pertained to something that you would do, go ask Dad. And so they got into a good habit of learning when Dad's home. Okay, well, I need my bike put together. I'm going to go ask Dad.
Yeah.
I'm going to.
Yeah. That's, I think it's important that, there's families have both sides represented and so many don't,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a big problem with a lot of the kids in this country that they just don't have that level of upbringing. And I was fortunate in my upbringing to have both parents stay together throughout the entirety of my life. And same with Rebecca. We didn't come from a broken home, but a lot of people have to deal with that. And I know that's got to be something that affects one even throughout their adult life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But anywho, I think we're going to probably wrap it up, guys. We've been on here for 1 hour and 41 minutes. And that's not too bad for just coming on and shooting the BS with you tonight. And glad that you guys have decided to join us yet again. Right?
Yes, we're always very thankful.
Yeah. Do you have any words of wisdom, Rebecca? You've been awfully quiet over there for the last few minutes. I think you should probably take us out with something grandiose and full of wisdom, if you will.
Oh, you're asking the wrong person. I would say go out and do what you enjoy and always be better than you were tomorrow. Yeah.
I think those are good words to live by. And again, I want to thank you guys for, well, wait a minute. We're getting into some comments here.
Hogs is here.
Hogs 14
I think
in the
he just
house.
popped in.
How's it going, man?
We got to stay on for another 20 minutes.
Good to see you, man. Bird Lady Speaks says, being a Black person in the homesteading community is lonely. Other Black people say you want to be white. Local white people aren't as welcoming or trusting. I'm transracial.
Did you know? Apparently you're not looking at me.
That's interesting. You say that, Bird Lady, because I don't know. I've to be honest, I've never felt that way. It's weird. Maybe, I understand other people that, are Black or whatever, or of a different ethnicity other than, white people, because whites are the majority in the country, at least for a little while until the Mexicans take over. But, I've never felt that way. And I lived in a very white community. In fact, I was one of 2 people in a high school of about 1,200 kids that were Black. I think there was 2 of us. And then when he left, there was only me. And I never felt that way. I don't know. Not that people didn't look at me and go, oh, hey, there's a Black dude, or whatever. It's like they're, hey, I'm a white guy. Even though I'm half white, people don't look at me that way. But no matter where I go, I don't ever feel like, oh, people don't want me here, or they, are like I'm alone or something. I just don't feel that way. So
I think it helps though, the way you carry yourself though, because you carry yourself with pride, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, I don't know. That's an interesting thing. And I wish that weren't the case for some. And if it's that way for you, I feel bad for that, but I don't feel that way within this community. I mean, I've been to, Tennessee and went to Living Free in Tennessee and hung out with all those folks. And you know what? I think I was the only Black guy there. And I didn't feel like, geez, everybody's looking at me or whatever, or I'm alone. I never felt that way.
Billy wasn't there?
Oh yeah. Billy was there. So yeah, Billy's a Black dude.
Billy was in the house.
Yeah, that's right. So I don't know. It's not like, it's not a thing for me. It's weird. maybe I just don't look at the world in a certain way or whatever. And I'll wait till somebody confronts me over some bullshit for me to say something about it. But
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would say the same. I don't really look at people of being different. They're people. They're people.
Yeah, for sure. Gaines goes, I'm sitting here sipping on my homemade wisteria soda pop. It is delicious, but I think I will cut down on the sugar next time. That sounds interesting. So I would go with the soda pop without any sugar. That'd be pretty good if it was like carbonated and stuff. But it probably, if it's homemade, you're probably getting the carbonation from the yeast and everything, right? So that's going to need the sugar in there and everything to feed that. But that sounds interesting. So you made that, huh, Skanes? That almost sounds like that could be alcoholic.
That's what I was thinking.
If it's done right. Yeah. Yeah, Bird Lady. Yeah, you're awesome. Let's see here. Bird Lady, I watch a lot of homesteaders that happen to be Black, Asian, and Hispanic. I think there's a lot of people in the space doing the thing. I think the majority of people, at least the people that are authentic to me, don't make it like, hey, look at me, I'm doing this because I'm Black, and everybody else that's Black should, look at me like I'm something that, it shouldn't be about that, man. I mean, just act like a human being, and people generally treat you like a human being.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's weird. I never felt that way, even though I've lived in places where it's not a lot of Black people. I don't know. Yeah. You have to feed the yeast. So you have to have some sugar. It's delicious. And yes, I plan to ferment a little later. Yeah.
We'll be by to visit.
Yeah, that sounds kind of good, actually. My son-in-law got into making kombucha, and he was pretty good at making that. And those were pretty delicious. He made a couple that were little alcohol spike in them, and those were pretty good. He got good at making that. But we haven't been down that road trying to make any soda pops yet, but that sounds cool.
Mm-mm.
Dean Mullins, how are you, man? Good to see you in the house. You got any sheep jokes? Huh? Yeah, we're just about headed out of town here. We're gonna wrap it up for the evening, but thanks for joining us tonight, Dean. Let's see. I am like Rebecca. People are just people. We all have different levels of melanin. Yeah, I think that's very true. And, we all have different upbringings and different beliefs and different cultures and different things that we're comfortable with too. Yeah, there's, I don't know. It's pretty amazing that we can all coexist without wanting to kill each other at any given time because we are so different, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I think we're more alike than we are different.
Yeah, I would agree.
And that's how I believe we coexist.
I think that if people actually could sit down and have genuine conversation without realizing that the other person needs to be attacked or demonized for their beliefs, we would really come to an understanding that we all have very similar interests, and we all have things that we innately need within ourselves to make ourselves feel happy and whole. And our political differences would be largely a secondary or side distraction, because we all want safety and security. We all want to feel like we are valid and useful and have purpose and meaning, and live our lives according to how we want to live it. And the problem exists when some people decide, hey, the way that I want to live my life should be like how other people should live my life or their life. And that goes to the people I was referring to earlier who had something to say about my potty mouth. They don't like the way that I use my words. So therefore, they want to change my words. And again, I'm here to tell you that's never going to happen. So just live your life according to how you want to live it, and everybody'd be a lot happier so long as you're not imposing your shit on others. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And watch that potty mouth.
Yep. Bird Lady says, I think it's just my little town. Online and local is completely different. Very welcoming online, not so much locally. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That sucks. That sucks. Maybe you need to take them some more eggs. Make some friends with your eggs, man. You got the hookup on the eggs. But yeah. But anyhow, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. I do appreciate y'all sticking around to hear us rant about certain things. But yeah, I did find that interesting, the whole controversy, if you will, in the online homesteading community. I don't really think that there's a controversy, but there's people out there on the internet that always want to make things into more than they actually are. And those are the people that are usually doing less in their own lives. And so therefore they need to impart what they're not doing as trying to get somebody else to do what they want.
Yeah. And I think it has some validation for them.
Of course. Yep. But anyhow, new t-shirt. Johnny Jones in the house. How are you doing? We're going to tap out Johnny Jones and all the rest of you. I think we've got a few more chores to do outside, and we are going to eat some of Rebecca's homemade chili. And we hope to see you next week. We hope.
Yeah.
And remember, homesteading is not harmful content. Go out tomorrow and be better than you were today.
Absolutely.